Variety is the spice of life, at least for some people. Their previous list of builds might sway from hatchbacks to sedans, front-wheel drive to rear-wheel drive, and even jump across multiple automakers. For others, like Jesus Salazar, it's all about sticking to what you know and love. And in his case, it's the NB chassis Mazda Miata. This build serves as a continuation of his infatuation with the fun-loving roadster, being that he enjoyed his previous project for over 12 years, and, if he has his way, this one will stick around for much longer. His old MX-5 had taken a considerable amount of abuse over the decade, plus, that Salazar enjoyed behind the wheel, drift adventures both on and off the track, along with playing tag with the pole at one point, had taken its toll on the chassis. He adds, "It became so bad that in order to get my ride height dialed in, the coilovers would be too different in length. I tried to get multiple reputable shops in my area to help straighten it, but no one would take the job on." Willing to press on with the twisted frame, Salazar made his way to last year's Final Bout Special Stage Central, got a little loose, and hit a spin right in front of his teammate, resulting in a fender bender, or, more specifically, a core support bender. After talking it over with my paint or body guy, Mikey Garagesixteen, I decided it was finally time to raise shell. I asked friends to keep their eyes open for any cars or shells that might pop up. As luck would have it, his friend David found a fellow roadster fanatic in Michigan who raced Spec Miatas with his sons and had a 3-car inventory of shells up for grabs. This chassis was the cleanest of the 3 and the same trim level that my original chassis was, so swapping everything over would be easiest. It was silver, so it needed to be painted. Besides that, I did all the work myself with the help of my 3 kids. The family rebuild was a quick one, with the car obtained in July of last year and finished up by October. Skim over the car and notice there are no flares, no towering wing, and nothing jutting out of the hood. The look remains simple and clean, with an emphasis on real-world drivability. It's the type of build that will blend right in, yet car people, especially those well-versed in all things Miata, will certainly take notice of, and it's a product of a cross-culture approach, as Salazar notes. The plans were, and always have been, to keep it as nice of a drift car as possible. Chicago has a reputation of very stylish drift cars, and I wanted to maintain that level of style through this build. Taking inspiration from my Chicano culture and lowriders, I try to keep it as clean as possible. In most car clubs, you cannot get a plaque until the car is presentable. So, in a sense, I've earned my plaque. The exterior of Salazar's NB is business casual, relying on the quaint factory lines, only slightly augmented with the addition of a Spirit RFD rear wing and Shorin bumper lip in the rear, and subtle side skirts with S2000 specific side diffusers that run along the flanks. Up front, an NB2 bumper is joined by an FERP constructed Shorin lip with integrated diffuser and canards, and fresh Mazda speed headlights were also added to get the car much lower than stock and dial in the handling for any number of driving environments based on Salazar's past adventures, which include drift and Auto X. In addition to regular street driving, stance AL plus coilovers were installed with DGR modified knuckles up front and destroyed rear drop knuckles. SPL's bump steer correction tie rods and rear UCAs lend a hand, as does a full array of energy suspension bushing updates. After all of the changes were made, the black exterior got a taste of contrast from Advan Racing RG2 in bright white. With a mechanical background, none of the above changes proved difficult for Salazar and his kids, but when it came to boosting the Miata, struggle ensued. He adds, "The turbo build was not so easy. I purchased the kit with the intentions of making it to Final Bout Gallery, but had multiple issues with parts. Then I couldn't get the aftermarket ECU to read crank signal for spark. A few weeks of troubleshooting with his tuner didn't solve the issue, so it was decided that the ECU might be the culprit, and a new computer was sourced. Once the new one showed up, it was started and tuned within 2 weeks. Hardest part of that whole process was waiting on people to send parts that were already paid for. The TSE Turbo Kit, which relies on a BorgWarner EFR 6258, was installed along with Fab 9 Tuning's plug-and-play coil-on-plug conversion, and Deechworks 700cc injectors and in-tank pump to help beef up spark and fuel respectively. The 3-in exhaust piping by Ant Garage terminates through a Kakimoto Racing muffler. Maintaining the cool comes by way of a customized S14 intercooler and a coil radiator and oil cooler combo. And ME221 ECU takes care of the tuning side, while a Spec Stage 4 clutch and cause 1.5-way diff. Transfer power to pavement. Jesus Salazar knows a thing or two about the NB Miata with over 13 years of hands-on experience by his side. And this version, even better than his first, is set to remain under the Salazar family name for good. Future plans would be any sort of seat time. I'd like to drive as much as possible in as many forms of driving as possible, whether it's Auto X, road race, or drift. Eventually, I'd like to hand it down to my kids, hoping that they can at least learn to drive a manual, and maybe get them into some Auto X defensive driving classes when they're teenagers.